Hi everyone, my name is Maya and I'm an AP Environmental Science at Half Moon Bay High School. I'm interested in studying the environment because it's pretty much everywhere around us. It's in the foods that we eat, the water we drink, and even the clothes that we wear. Right now, climate change and pollution is a big problem, and it's important that we educate ourselves about the earth and what we can do to protect it and live more sustainably.
Hi there, I'm Chris. I'm an environmental student at Half Moon Bay High School. I enjoy studying our environment because I like going outside and taking in what nature has to give us. And I think it's also very important that we get more people to understand our earth and how we should take care of it.
What's going on, everybody? How's everyone doing today? My name is Cameron Geranius, and I am an AP Environmental student. Let's go. I'm also a senior, and I thought it'd be really fun to take this class my last year. I've always really liked the environment, man. As you can see, I'm joined by two beautiful redwood trees. I live up on Kings Mountain on Skyline. If you don't know where that is, that's near Kings Mountain Elementary School. I went there. I live here. I love it here. Got these giant, magnificent trees. These aren't that big. Really, they get to be like 20 feet in diameter, right? They're super big. These are just babies, but they're still magnificent to be around. They're just so tall, just like me. I'm 6'4". These are like at least 100 feet tall, man. I feel a connection with the trees. And that's why I really like the environment. Today, we're going to be learning about the soil. Now that seems a little bit boring, but I promise you it's a little bit more interesting than you think, all right?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Kasey Butler with the San Mateo Resource Conservation District.
Hi, I'm Adria with the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, and we're excited to talk to you about soil today. We work at the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, which was created in 1939 by farmers to help them conserve their soil. More than 80 years later, our organization is focused on all sorts of natural resource conservation things like improving water quality, building habitat for wildlife, and helping people manage their forests. Kasey and I have the really fun job of working with farmers to help them with conservation projects on their farms and ranches. And a lot of that work has to do with soil.
So first, we wanted to start by talking about why soil is important. And before sharing why we think soil is important, we wanted to give you a little bit of time to think about why soil might be important to you and to other people on the earth, other living things. So take a few seconds to think about that, and then we'll share why we think it's important.
All right. We bet you came up with some really good ideas. We think soil is important because it forms at the surface of the land, which is 29% of the Earth's surface. And it's capable of supporting plant life, which is vital to life on Earth. Plants create the oxygen that we breathe, and humans and animals eat the plants that grow in the soil. And we also eat the animals that depend on those plants. Soil can filter water, keeping water clean for us to drink. It provides habitat for lots of things like microorganisms and fungi. All life on Earth depends on soil for food, either directly or indirectly. And it can even help fight climate change by absorbing carbon from the atmosphere and storing it in the roots and plants through photosynthesis.
So soil is more than just dirt, but what is it? Soil is a mixture of minerals and organic material that covers much of the Earth's surface. Did you know that there are more soil microorganisms in a teaspoon of healthy soil than there are people on Earth? That's a lot. Millions of species and billions of organisms, including bacteria, algae, microscopic insects, earthworms, beetles, ants, mites, fungi, and more, represent the greatest concentration of biomass anywhere on the planet. Microbes process organic matter into rich, dark humus in the soil. And so is it different than dirt? So dirt is soil that is out of place in our world. So it's under your fingernails, on your clothes, and dirt is also soil that has lost the characteristics that give it the ability to support life. It's also dead.
So what's in it anyways? Soils formed by the weathering of rocks, which happens over hundreds of years. As the rocks break down into really small particles, that makes up a component of the soil solids. The minerals found in soil that support plant growth include phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. But soil isn't just those mineral components. It also contains organic material that are the remains of living things like roots and leaves. Soil is also home to living things, like Kasey said, like worms and microorganisms, and they break down the dead leaves and the roots. When you pick up a handful of soil, it isn't completely solid, right? There's small spaces where air and water can get in to provide water to the roots for plants, and air that leaves the soil. And all of this together makes soil. So you could pick up a clod of soil in your garden or at the park, and you can see all of those spaces that the roots form.
So next we're going to talk a little bit about soil texture. So soil texture is sort of how the soil feels. And the mineral particles of the soil are what's used to determine what texture the soil is. So you can see in this diagram that sand particles are much larger than clay particles. And you can also get a sense of how small these tiny little silt and clay particles are, especially in comparison to sand and gravel. And then this chart on the right shows a soil texture pyramid, which kind of shows you the different soils and what percent of clay, loam, and silt make up those soils. And the texture of a soil helps us understand how much water it can hold based on how much pore space there is. For example, sandy soil is made up of larger soil particles, and therefore when it rains, water can move through the soil quickly because of the pore space available. However, when it rains on soil that is heavy in clay, particles are much smaller and allow much less pore space between soil particles, so the water can't move as quickly through the soil. And just to show one example of how you might use this soil texture pyramid, so if you get a soil test, you take soil from your garden and you send it to a lab to get it tested so you can learn more about it. That test might tell you what percent clay, silt, and sand your soil is. So if you were to get your test back and it told you that you had 20% clay, 40% silt, and 40% sand, you can look on the soil texture pyramid and follow the lines from each of those percentages, and it will tell you that you have a medium loam, which is helpful to better understand your soil, and if you have a garden, better help you better understand what you might be able to grow.
So we mentioned all of the tiny things that live in soil, but soil also supports a very complex food web, especially at the surface layer, which is called the topsoil, which is where the plants are growing. And there are also burrowing animals, there are spiders, worms, and super small microorganisms. When we do our soil assessments, we will take a handful of soil to see if we can find any worms or bugs, which tells us if the soil is healthy enough to support those living things. So you can do that in your yard or at the park. Dig a little hole into the soil and see, can you find any of those things? Since organic matter, fungi, and microorganisms are so important to healthy soil, many people add those things to their soil every year in the form of compost. And compost is decomposed organic material, like the leaves and food scraps, which have been broken down by all of those important soil living things.
So next we're going to talk a little bit about soil erosion. So soil erosion is a natural process like you see at our coastal bluffs. Erosion is caused by wind and water, but sometimes because of human action, soil erosion can accelerate. Have you heard of the Dust Bowl? In the early 1900s, people started farming in the high plains of America. What had once been grassland was tilled up and converted to agriculture to grow food. Because of those practices and a drought, the soil couldn't support the plants and lost its ability to stick together. Windstorms blew soil from the plains all the way to New York. And that's shown in this picture on the lower right, that huge dust storm. So we want to protect the soil against erosion. And erosion concerns us because that means we're losing our important topsoil, which is necessary for supporting the plants and animals that depend on it. It takes at least 100 years for soil to form. So it's really important that we protect our topsoil and prevent erosion.
So how do we do this? These are the things that we help people, or that people can do to protect against erosion and build those healthy soils. The first is to limit disturbance. When we dig and till in the soil, we're breaking up really important soil aggregates, like those clods that we talked about, which means that the soil won't hold on to water as well and won't be as protected against erosion. We also want to maximize soil cover. When rain hits the soil, it can erode the soil. When there are big storm events and there's lots of water running on the soil, that can erode the soil. And even, like Kasey mentioned, wind can erode the soil. So we want to maximize that soil cover. And we can do that by using materials like wood chips or even straw. Another way we want to protect our soil is maximizing the presence of those living plants and roots. Soils really like having living plants growing in it. It continues to add that organic matter and support that soil food web, which makes it healthy. So when plants are living in soil, they're also protecting the soil like a mulch would from the wind and the rain and the sun. Thank you guys so much for letting us teach you about soil. We hope that after learning about it, you think it's as cool as we do. And so we hope that you can dig around and explore and see if you can find living things and see what's in your soil and think about what you can do to protect your soil. If you want to send us an email, if you have any questions, you can do that at our email addresses here. We hope you guys have a good rest of your course. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, today we're going to be doing the soil decomposition challenge. We're going to be learning about why healthy soil is important and what's in it. What you're going to need is something to dig with, 2 pieces of cotton cloth, and 2 different locations that you can bury these pieces of cloth in. Did you guys know that in just 1 teaspoon of healthy soil, there are more microorganisms than there are people on the entire planet? That's pretty cool, right? In this activity, we're going to be figuring out how much microorganisms are in the soil around us and how that relates to how healthy the soil is. Like I said before, you're going to want to pick 2 different locations to bury your cotton. I chose this area of dirt near my front yard, and my other location is in my driveway near some bushes. So when you're digging your hole, you want to make it about 6 inches deep, and I already dug it, so you're just going to take your cotton and put it in the hole and then cover it up. And we're going to be coming back to these holes in 2 months to see what happens to the cloth. So now that we're done here, we're going to go head over to the second location. So as you can see, my two locations are pretty close together. When you're choosing your location, remember that you might have to ask permission from your parents if it's somewhere like your front yard or backyard. And try to stay close to your house and be safe when you're looking for locations. So this is under a bush and there's a lot more plants growing, so I'm gonna assume that this soil is gonna be healthier. So you're gonna do the same thing and dig a 6-inch hole and put your cotton in there. So you're gonna know that your soil's healthy based on the condition of your cotton. So if your cotton has a bunch of holes in it and is pretty tattered, then you'll know that it is healthy because there's more microorganisms present. The microorganisms are gonna kind of eat up the cotton. So at the end of this, in 2 months, when you dig it up, look for signs that there are microorganisms there, holes and tears, and you're going to compare the two spots to see which one was more healthy. When you guys are done burying your cloth, you're going to want to fill out this soil test activity record sheet. So the first thing that you're going to write down is the day that you buried it. For me, today is September 16th, and then the next one is the day that you excavate it or unbury it, dig it up. That is November 16th for me. You might want to write down on a calendar this day or have your parents set a reminder. And you also are going to write the Site A location and Site B location and write a few things that describe where you buried both of the cloths so that you can remember. The next one is, which site do I think will have healthier soil and why? This is going to depend on your locations, and they could be very different from mine. Mine are, I think that Site B will be healthier because there are more plants growing around it, and Site A was a lot more dry. And the last one is, how will I know which soil is healthier? We already talked about this, so if the soil has more microorganisms, it's going to be healthier, and you'll know that by the condition of the cloth. So you're going to compare the two when you dig them up, and the one that is more tattered and worn down, that's going to be the one with the healthier soil. Hope to see you guys in 2 months.
One really neat thing about the environment is that you can become practically invisible. Wait, where am I? Where did I go? You can't even see me? That's okay. Well, you'll see me now. How's everyone doing today? I know, pretty spooky, right? How I can just camouflage myself like that? That's why nature's so cool, man. What can I say? Alrighty, y'all. Woo! Gotta love hard soil. Digging a hole, I'm digging a hole, I'm digging a hole, I'm digging a hole. Digging holes all day, digging holes all night.